Okay, y'all gonna have to learn how to play the game. Play the game, but play it from the aspect of understanding and knowing who you are and where you are and how you created that space for yourself. So let me explain. One of my last corporate career positions was in workforce management in a very small startup company. And I was talking to one of my clients this morning, and it reminded me about an experience that I had in that position. And I essentially created that position for myself because I went in knowing who I was, what I wanted, and what my power was. So I went from being in a kind of frontline position to having the company consolidate a role and create that for me. So in that role that was created specifically for me, I was working directly under one of the department managers. So it was just me and the department manager. And then she had the leads and the supervisors who were also reporting to her. But I only reported to her, and I had nobody else on my team at the time. And I did workforce management. So I did real-time workforce management because our team was small. So if we were started to queue with chats and things like that, I would manually go out and reach out to associates and ask them, hey, can you take another chat, or can you pause your break? And I would manually rearrange scheduling and rearrange the resources so that the customers that were waiting could be assisted. So when we had those instances of us queuing, my manager, who I found out was a micromanager because she had done my position before and was essentially 2 levels over my position, because I was there to take over that responsibility from the leads and the supervisors, have it consolidated to just my position, and so they could, do the development stuff. She would jump in and start dictating to me what to do. Well, go ask this person and do this and make it. She was essentially doing my job, and I was just facilitating at that point instead of allowing me to strategically do what I was hired to do. And initially it irritated me because I was in my ego, I was like, this is my job. And she checked me one time when I kind of pushed back on her about it. One of the first times that it happened, she checked me on it, and something inside of me was like, don't worry about it. So I said, oh no, it's not an issue, please help me. I reversed it. So she continued to do it. So when we would have these queuing instances where our service level was going down, she would jump in and, hey, do this and this and that. And we would do it because it take 20 minutes, it take 30 minutes, no problem. What I found was that when I would go into our one-on-one meetings, our performance reviews and things like that, she had no problems with me, none at all, because I allowed her to facilitate her micromanaging in that instance. She would look out for me, all these different things. So talking to my client this morning reminded me, and you can contribute this to the 48 Laws of Power or whatever you want to contribute it to. But I'm telling you, when you know who you are and when you know your power, a lot of things, you begin to check your ego on a lot of things. And the things that other people do, if you see them as a weakness or you see them as a pain point for them, you can utilize that for your benefit. See, if I hadn't checked my ego and I hadn't matured to where I could understand what was happening and not let it negatively impact me, if I hadn't done that, she and I would have been butting heads all the time. I would have been in my ego by, you need to let me do my job. But I realized when I sat back and thought about it, I said, okay, you know what? If she's micromanaging this, then she can't come back on me and blame me for anything because I'm not the one making decisions at that point. She's taking over. And it just so happened to work out in my favor that's how she looked at it. Like if I allow her to do it and it gets taken care of, then during the review when we're looking over things, she didn't have any problems with me. She was like, you're doing great. I got invited into inner circle meetings with the departmental managers and other department heads. I got invited to fashion and form training opportunities for the department. I was invited to do a lot of things because I kept my ego in check. Now, the reason why I was able to do that was because I knew how to command myself at that point. I was matured in my emotions, and I had a good command of my own ego. I was understanding how to play that game. And because I understood how to play that game, I created a space for myself where I could essentially kind of do what I wanted to do. That's something that you're going to have to work on when you're working on your elements. Elements are not just about what's going on in the outside world. It's about what's going on with you first. You have to be able to sit down with yourself and see your ego. Sit down with yourself and see what's going on with you emotionally. Sit down with yourself and see where your command of yourself is, where your confidence in yourself is. And then sit down with yourself and see, okay, what am I producing in my reality with all of that? Because that's the earth element. If I hadn't had a good command of myself, my air, my ego, and my water, my emotional responses, I would have made an enemy out of my boss, my manager, because she wasn't crouching on my position. She was micromanaging. You're supposed to do your job and let me do my job so you can then evaluate me based on my handling, not use me to just facilitate your commands because you're in crisis mode and thinking that you can do the job better than me. But because I sat back and I allowed her to flow in that vein, it worked out for me. And that's what I had to tell my client today. I was like, if you're dealing with this person, this person is full of pride. Instead of you trying to be also a narcissistic motherfucker and figure out the code to get them to see their pride, why don't you just utilize their pride to your advantage? Go into the environment and be like, oh shoot, dang, you spending X dollars on this. Oh, you must really have it going on. Look at you, you're doing a good job. Use their pride against them, since you already know that they're not going to come out of that. They're possessed by that energy, and see where it goes for you. But I wouldn't be able to get to that point if I didn't have a good command of myself. So that's why, y'all got a lot of tips and tricks and stuff going on about this and that. Tips and tricks don't work until you have a good command of yourself. You have to be able to sit down with yourself, know your ins and outs. Have a good command of all of your elements before you can command somebody else's. You want to try to tips and tricks your way into a whole nother ecosystem, into a whole nother dating pool, into a whole nother lifestyle. And you don't have a good command of yourself to be consistent, to be flexible, to not try to go into an environment and think you're going to change the terrain and the territory with your unique vibe, when that's actually the worst thing that you can do. You have to assimilate and respect where you're trying to go, and then once you get acclimated, you can bring in whatever your little signature code is. But you got to assimilate first. You got to respect the environment, inspect the ways. Learn how to sit with yourself and know yourself better so that you can have a good command of your own elements, which will then allow you to command others. That's what y'all are missing with this tips and tricks stuff. Tips and tricks don't work when you don't know what the hell is going on.